Hi everyone, it's Tammy from the Historical Association of Annapolis Royal.
And this is Al Melanson from Explorer Guide. The Gannes-Cosby house, oldest wooden house in Canada.
It was built in 1708, and Alan is going to tell some very spooky stories that are associated with this house. So I hope you enjoy it. This is another video in our series called Haunting Tales from Annapolis Royal.
Yes, tonight I'm going to relate a couple of tales that were passed on to me by Gordon Wetmore, who lived in this house, grew up here. And I'm writing a book with my wife, Darlene, about the story of this house. It's called The Frontier Survivor, Canada's oldest wooden house. And we hope to have it out for the plaque with this house as a National Historic District. And also in 2024, we'll have it. It will be out again for the World Congress of Acadians. So I'd ask Gordon to relate the tales, and what better way to do it than to tell you the story as he put it on one whole page here of this book about the Gannes-Cosby house. Well, he writes, growing up in the grand old house, I heard stories of two different hauntings told to me by my mother, Margaret Frances Hanks Wetmore, who was an excellent storyteller with nodding corroboration from my grandmother, Mrs. A.W. Banks, the most sweetly agreeable person that I have ever known. The first story is similar to the one recounted by Charlotte Perkins in her wonderful book, The Romance of Old Annapolis Royal, was published by the Historical Association of Annapolis Royal. Similar, but not the same. The Perkins story tells of a shawled woman appearing in a rocking chair in an upstairs bedroom and speculated to be the specter of a Mrs. Thomas Barclay, wife of Garrison Commander Colonel Thomas Barclay, and a cruel woman who once had a slave murdered and sealed up in a fireplace. However, I believe that it has been established that there are no bones in any fireplace structures in the house. None of them are big enough to contain a body anyway. My mother's story also had a shawled woman in a rocking chair, but in the downstairs living room, southeast corner. We ourselves had a rocking chair there for years. Occasionally, the unoccupied chair would rock gently in its own for no apparent reasons. Coincidence? Of course, but it was far too much fun speculating about either otherworldly forces to ever change the chair's location. According to our version, the lady appeared only to one particular family, sometimes in the late 1800s. Was it some descendants of the Barclays? I don't know. Allegedly, one of the family's children saw the strange woman in the living room and went to the kitchen to ask her mother who was visiting. The mother took a look and sent the child to find her father, who was working in the garden down near the marshes. Tell him she's back, the mother instructed. Supposedly, the shawled lady was a long-departed relative who just, perhaps, sewed or crocheted for a time. I've always liked the story for its lack of drama and conflict. It is reassuring to think that a departed loved one could just drop in for a bit, or that a comforting family visit could be mine to enjoy later on. The other story is less pleasant. There were rumors of cruelty to slaves by the Barclays, including hanging some by their thumbs as punishment. Around the turn of the 20th century, the house belonged to an elderly couple. One night, while preparing for bed, the lady of the house had a feeling of an unease. And, oh dear, I've left the kettle on the stove and it will boil dry, kind of thing. She came downstairs and was about to walk up the hall to the kitchen when a small black girl, dressed in tattered clothes, came out of the den doorway, her arms elevated, her hands distorted, and a look of great anguish on her face. She said nothing, but walked past the startled woman and out through the front door without bothering to open it. This apparition had never been seen before and never again. This is as told by Gordon Wetmore, March 18th, 2013. Now, today, I actually learned of a ghost story that entails a gentleman who just passed away but owned this house for over 30 years, Mr. Jim Howe. He's my mentor. He's a past president of the Historical Association of Annapolis Royal. And it was related to me by Nuala Matson. So Melanson, so believe what she says. She lived in the house next door at the time, which is now Jane and Peter Nicholson's house. The story goes that as he was walking home through the green grass of Fort Anne, he saw a gentleman walking towards him. So as they encountered each other, he said, "Hello, good day, how are you going?" The gentleman just walked by, didn't say a word. And Jim turned around to see where he was going. The gentleman had disappeared. So sometimes ghosts can make brief encounters. Folks, if I can find a ghostwriter, be certain to have this book out for the National Building Plaquing here from the Historic Sites and Monument Board of Canada, and also for the World Congress of Acadians. And we hope you'll watch all the ghost stories and haunting tales that are being put forth by the Historical Association of Annapolis Royal and the Explorer Guide. Wishing you a happy Halloween. Alan Melanson for you. Bye-bye.